Lee. Senator Lee, welcome to the show. Now, what's your look? I don't. Maybe you don't agree with me, but I mean, I don't like bad strikes. I know there's some problems if it continues forever. A decent administration would stop it from continuing. But the reality is they've been killed. Wages or prices have gone up much faster than wages in the last 4 years. You know that, sir. And it's affected longshoremen. It's affected every working family in this country. And there is a revolt against it. So I don't really feel like blaming the longshoremen.
No, that's a very fair point. And they're experiencing what so many other Americans are experiencing right now. The impact of excessive federal spending and excessive federal regulation produce inflation. That means that every dollar everyone makes buys less of what they need. And so as a result of that, people look to other things they can do to make ends meet. And the longshoremen are using the tools available to them. Now, I do hope that they will get this resolved as soon as possible, but this should not come as a surprise to the Biden-Harris administration, which caused this very problem that put them here in the first place.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I agree with both points you're making. But the thing is, there's almost a knee-jerk reaction. Business blames labor. And I don't know if you ever met my dear friend and mentor, the late Jack Kemp. I don't know if you ever met Jack Kemp. But Jack, in the set, yeah, I mean, it's always a great experience. The guy has total energy, loved America. He was Mr. Growth and Mr. Supply Side. Okay. Anyway, he used to always say, stop blaming labor to Republicans. He would say, you know, why don't you bring labor into the Republican Party? By the way, it's not dissimilar to what Mr. Trump is trying to do to bring working folks into the Republican Party at the polls in another month or so. But Kemp would say, labor didn't destroy the value of the dollar and the money supply. Labor didn't raise taxes. Labor didn't cause all this inflation. That was done by the government. You know, so blame the government or blame the Democrats who were running the government. Of course, in the 70s, it was both Republicans and Democrats who were inflationary. Blame inflation, not the workforce. They're just trying to survive, you know? I mean, I think that's an apt point today. You're seeing labor unrest break out in a bunch of places. I don't think it's because they're mean or because the workforce hates America. I think they're trying to survive. But they can't when prices rise faster than wages, Senator.
No, that's exactly right. And so whether you're someone who's worried about the longshoremen strike, you should lay the blame appropriately at the Biden-Harris administration and their failed policies. And if you're part of organized labor, then you should vote for Trump-Vance and not Harris-Walz, because you'll get more of these same kinds of policies with them. That's why the Republican Party should be the appropriate home for organized labor.
Yeah. Senator, Donald Trump is speaking out in Saginaw, Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, and he's speaking right now, and we've got some interesting tape I want to roll for you and get your comment. Here it comes, sir.
We can soon have soaring incomes, skyrocketing wealth, millions and millions of new jobs, and a booming middle class. We can live in cities and towns that are safe and clean and borders that are sealed and secure. Wouldn't that be nice? And America can once again be strong and confident and free.
He's going on? Okay, we're done. He's talking about a new golden age. He's saying, make America great again. We're launching a new golden age for America. Now, I know those are, you know, people will say, well, those are campaign promises. But I think it's all doable. One thing, Senator, you and I have talked about this down through the years. Why should we accept 2% growth, which is what the Federal Reserve, actually 1.8 as far as the eye can? Why not back to 3 or 4% growth, which we had in this country for the 75 years after World War II. I think it was about 75 years. Why can't we grow the economy faster? You know, why can't we have better real wages? What's wrong with those goals?
The biggest single impediment to both those things is the federal government. Excessive taxation and excessive regulation is what's throttling economic growth. There are some studies that try to examine what would happen if we could strip away a large part of the federal regulatory overlay. You know, we add about 100,000 pages of law every year, written by men and women not of our own choosing, unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats. Those regulations over time build up. They're costing, many estimate that they're costing the economy $3 to $4 trillion right now, roughly in the same neighborhood as what the personal income tax costs the economy. Only you don't see the bill for the higher prices you pay on everything because of increased regulations. If we did that, I think we would see increased economic growth, far above the roughly 2% that the Federal Reserve aspires to. I think we start to see it much more like 3-4%, sometimes more than that. But as it stands, this serves as a regulator. It serves as and not in a good way, something that depresses the upside, the potential for economic growth.
Yeah, you know, as Reagan said, what was it? The 9 scariest words in the English language. I'm here from the government to help, and I'm here to help you. I mean, you know, the more things change, the more they remain the same. I've been doing this a long time, Senator. I should be tired, but I'm actually not. I worked for Reagan over 40 years ago. I'm still cooking. I went down there for a while and worked with you in the Trump administration and so forth. It's still the problem. Blame government. Don't blame the longshoremen. I guess I should just say that. Blame government and the people that are running the government, for heaven's sakes.
That's right. And especially when you get to the point where the people in government who are supposed to be responsible for making your laws, under Article 1 of the Constitution, the only people who can make federal law are members of Congress. Without the House and the Senate passing the same piece of legislation, you cannot make a federal law. But we've been making 100,000 pages of new law a year without Congress ever weighing in on it. That's wrong. The REINS Act would fix that. And it's one of the things that I hope and expect President Trump will push in the coming Trump-Vance administration.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I mean, the Supreme Court is encouraging that, ending Chevron deference and the EPA versus West Virginia, so you're quite right. Senator Lee, another point. We're hearing both the Democratic candidates, Kamala Harris as well as Governor Walz. Both of them are saying if we get a Democratic Congress, Democratic Senate particularly, 51 votes could end the filibuster. Now, they say end the filibuster to reinstate Roe v. Wade. I want to focus on that first because they don't want to reinstate Roe v. Wade. They want to reinstate a draconian position that would allow end abortions in the 8th and 9th month and even partial birth abortions, which is a horrible thing. But I'm going to also suggest to you, sir, and then I'm going to give you open field running to answer this, that what they're really aiming at also, they're going to kill the filibuster, not just for the abortion question, but they're going to kill the filibuster in order to pack the Supreme Court so it's Katie barred the door towards their liberal left policy. You are a scholar and an expert, constitutional expert on all this. You've been talking about it for years. What do you make of these Democratic ends of filibusters?
When Democrats threaten to end the filibuster, number one, we should believe them. Number two, we should be scared to death. Number three, we should understand that this is about maintaining a perpetual, indefinite democratic hegemony, the likes of which we haven't seen in this country, the likes of which you saw one political party, the PRI party in Mexico, dominate that country's politics for almost the entirety of the 20th century. That is what they want here. Now, they will be able to do that if they get the majority back in the House, keep the majority in the Senate, and maintain the White House under Democratic control. They'll nuke the filibuster. They'll add D.C. and Puerto Rico as states. They will also pack the Supreme Court. And once you do that, there's a one-way street toward politicizing the court. I felt so strongly about this 2 years ago. I wrote a book about it. It's called Saving Nine. And in Saving Nine, I explained it. Once you open that door, it's not technically unconstitutional to pack the Supreme Court. But once it's done, it changes fundamentally what the court would function like. It would turn the court into a political body that would eventually become far too big to perform this judicial task. All of these things would help the Democrats in turn to maintain this sort of perpetual Democratic dominance, which is what they're after. So don't be fooled. These guys are not messing around. They're playing for keeps, and they're playing to dominate our politics for the next century without interruption.
I mean, just as you wrote an essay a couple years ago, which I found, and that's why I called you and asked you if you'd come on the show. But one of your key points is, and you're the constitutional scholar, not me, but I think you were saying the filibuster is important because it does protect the rights of the minority. And that's a very important principle, which, if these Democrats had any brains in their head, they would understand that it would protect them at some point, just as it might protect Republicans. It's actually not even a partisan point of view. That's
right. It isn't a partisan point of view. Traditionally, it hasn't been. It scares me that it is now, because there was always this understanding that if either side nuked the filibuster, it would be bad for the Senate, bad for the institution, be bad for the minority party. But that's one of the reasons why I insist that when they talk about these things, what they're really saying is we have every hope and expectation we won't need to worry about being in the minority again. We're going to change the laws so that the laws help us maintain a solid grip on the American political order. And so that's really what they're after, and that's what that means. Now, thank heavens, we've had two Democrats in Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema who have kept it at bay, and who kept it at bay for the first 2 years of this administration, while the Democrats held majorities in both the House and the Senate. They helped keep the nuke the filibuster cause at bay. But those two senators are retiring. And if they have the chance, they will do it in the next Congress. We can't let that happen. It's yet another reason for people to vote for Republicans.
Yes, sir. Senator Mike Lee, we appreciate your time very, very much, sir. Really. Thanks so much.